Okay. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. May the peace and blessing of Allah be upon each and every one of you who attended this event. Firstly, thank you everyone for coming down on this Friday's evening. We hope that everyone will benefit from Adulting 201, Islamic Insurance Dilemma, and have your questions on the permissibility of insurance in Singapore context answered. My name is Zikri, and I'm honored to be your MC and moderator for today. So, a short introduction of who we are. We are SMU Islamic Business and Finance Society, known as SMU IBFS. It's a wing constituted under SMU MS. We aim to cultivate and promote the growing interest in the field of Islamic business, law, economics, and other faculty of studies. Throughout the course of this event, we encourage you to actively participate by sharing your questions and thoughts via this QR. Sorry. Okay. Astaghfirullahaladzim. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. Okay, so correct. So this we will share our QR codes here. Then Islamic insurance, also known as Takaful, is available in many Muslim countries, including our neighboring countries, Malaysia and Indonesia. However, there is no Takaful in the Singapore market. Islamic scholars all over the world also have varying viewpoints about the permissibility of insurance. As young Singaporean Muslim making financial decisions to protect our wealth, it is essential we understand how to do that in the halal way in the Singapore context. This event aims to do just that by bringing together two asatizas who are well versed in Islamic finance, the Honorable Ustaz Aminuddin and Ustaz Nuzaihan. Okay, so our distinguished panelists today are Ustaz Aminuddin and Nuzaihan. Okay, Ustaz Aminuddin is currently a principal consultant for S Tradition. He's a certified Sharia advisor and auditor for AAOI FI, member of Association of Sharia Advisor in Islamic Finance, registered Sharia advisor at Security Commission Malaysia, and also he obtained a degree in Sharia from Al Azhar University, Egypt, and an MBA from University of in UK. Ustaz Nuzaihan also, he's a VP Treasury and ECG at Maybank Singapore. He graduated from Madrasah Al Junaid Al Islamiyah, proceeded to have a degree in Islamic Jurisprudence, Masters in Islamic Banking and Finance and Management from Loughborough University in UK. Okay, before we begin, let us start with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha, the first chapter of Al-Quran, and pray that we were all able to listen with an open mind and a sincere heart, and more importantly, we hope that we leave today's discussion a better Muslim with a clear understanding of Islam. May Allah guide us to the truth and the straight path. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, without further ado, let us begin this exciting exploration into Adulting 201. So, Ustaz Aminuddin will be presenting this. Alhamdulillah.
Dia punya tekan kat situ. Sini. Then I'll do it. It's okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi syrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. How's everyone doing tonight? It's been a tiring week kan? Monday, Friday baru dah nak enjoy. Oh yes, the weekend is coming. And then there's a session tonight. Thank you very much for making time. As we know that during the Majlis Al-Ilm, especially in this blessed month, what month are we in? September lah. Awal kan? So we hope that Majlis Al-Ilm, the pursuit of knowledge, and for us to be the best Muslim that we can be, all our efforts are blessed insyaAllah, and we are rewarded accordingly. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. Okay, so today's session is, anyone here speak Malay? Not predominantly. The present today is going to be so everyone is quite well versed in that as well, right? Okay, so just before we enter into the topic of Islamic insurance, okay, at the end of the day, the key takeaway is what is the position of Sharia or Islam on insurance, right? And then what about our situation here in Singapore? The available insurance products, are we able to subscribe to them? Are we not? Right? And then looking at what, perhaps if it's a yes or a no, okay, then what are the Sharia issues and perhaps what we can look forward to in the future, okay, because there are some items are in the works. So as we all know, the pursuit of worldly affairs, okay, even as Muslims, we make dua, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah. We make dua that we attain hasanah, the wonderful things, okay, the blessings that we can achieve here in this world, and also we want hasanah in the akhirah. Okay, that is hayya ala al-falah. The ultimate success is, of course, to be successful in the hereafter. So these are some of the Quranic verses. Okay, ash-shaytanu ya'idukumul faqra. It is the shaitan that promises al-faqr. Faqr ni, it's a situation of being poor, a situation of destitute, right? So shaitan brings you to that. Okay. Wallahu ya'idukum maghfirah minhu wa fadlah. And Allah promises and Allah brings forward to all of us maghfirah, forgiveness, okay, from Allah, and fadlah, all the goodness. And another verse in Surah Al-Jum'ah, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةِ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. After you've performed your obligation of the prayers, فَانْتَشِرُوا, we are to spread around, okay, seek benefit and take the opportunities that are available and are abundant in this world. Okay, وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ, we are to acquire and we are to seize all the wonderful things that are available in this world. So in our pursuit of wealth, in our pursuit of ensuring that how we attain our wealth, how we manage our wealth, how we spend our wealth, okay, we want all these items to be done in accordance to what Allah is pleased with, right? So and remember that, okay, and remember and when we look at the maqasid of Sharia, the objectives of, we talk about fiqh, what is halal, what is haram, what is the primary objective of it, okay? It is the establishment and preservation of various elements in our life, okay? Firstly, our religion. Secondly, our life, okay? Thirdly, wealth. Fourth, intellect, and as well as our honor or lineage, okay? So when we talk about wealth, it is part and parcel within the fiqh mu'amalat that is being discussed, deliberated, okay, formulated upon, okay, in the context of different phases, okay, since the traditional time of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam all the way to our modern age. Okay, just move on to the next one. Tak boleh ada isu kan?
Sorry ya guys.
Okay. So mana ni? Siapa yang control? Okay. So when we talk about investments, when we talk about financial transactions, economic activities, this is not something which is alien from our Muslim and Islamic tradition. If you look at in the 14th century, the book by Ibn Khaldun, Muqaddimah, it was his very work was used in the European textbooks for hundreds of years, okay, even since the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th century, okay, prior to perhaps Adam Smith's work in Wealth of Nations, right? And our past fuqaha were experts in the field of transactions. So when you talk about Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Maliki, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, they are not just theorists, academicians, but rather the A'immah, as well as the Mujtahideen, the Fuqaha and the Muslim scholars in their school of madhab, okay, they were actually business people. They were traders. Okay, they are involved in economic activities. And henceforth, when they discuss and formulate Islamic rulings, okay, pertaining to muamalat issues, like an example, what is the hukum of insurance today? They are directly involved in the kind of activities. So they are very well versed. Right. So before Ibn Khaldun, even Abu Yusuf, Abu Hanifa students, Imam Ghazali, Imam Farabi, Ibn Taymiyyah, these are familiar names. But they themselves, they are very, what do you call it, proficient. They are experts in the field of muamalah. So as Muslims, we shouldn't shy away from economic activities, from financial transactions. Rather, we should delve deep, understand what's going on, seek benefit from it, and be mindful and aware of perhaps some of the Sharia issues on these items. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about insurance and takaful. Right. So what is an insurance? Okay. So who here have taken up insurance, or who have insurance policies? Wow. Oh, quite a lot. Good. During my uni years, I didn't take any. Okay. What kind of insurance policies do you take?
Provided by the school.
Provided by the school. So what kind of coverage do they give?
Medical.
Also, as a student, you get, in case if there's any accidents, any medical bill, you'll be covered. Wonderful. Yourself?
Term policy,
Term policy on what?
life and CI.
Life and critical illness, or CI, or critical illness. Are you already working?
Yeah.
Okay. Normally, those who have started working, especially those with families, they will start to think about insurance coverage. In fact, insurance is sort of a luxury item, right? Until and only after you have enough income to sustain your monthly expenses. If you have extra, then you may consider. Those who, are living paycheck to paycheck, sometimes insurance is not even in one of their priorities. Okay, other than you, any other students that actually took or are taking insurance policies? Yes?
There's also personal accident plans, right?
Right. Okay, so you took it?
Yeah.
Personal accident, yeah? Okay. So this is, you were, what do you call it, harassed by the telemarketers. Hello, we have this. Or you yourself went to find an insurance agent to see what kind of coverage would be useful for you.
Because my brother is working in insurance. Yeah, so he helped me find like the best.
Right.
That
Okay.
is my needs.
And you're a student?
Yeah. So.
Okay. And who pays for the premiums? Oh, good. MashaAllah. Well done. So there are multiple arrays and types of insurance policies and coverages. Okay, they cover different items with different terms. Sometimes it's a term insurance, meaning that as long as you pay, you will get the coverage. Okay, and then there are also endowment. Okay, investment linked. Endowment as in, or annuity, whereby you pay for a certain amount of period and you would expect to get annual amount, okay, subsequent to that. Okay, I will not cover this the very types of insurance, but I would try to have a look at the overall structure of how an insurance business work, okay, and what are the Sharia issues available in them. Okay, now, okay, we'll start off. So there are the customers, right? You're very good selves. Okay, you would, okay, engage an insurance agent. In her instance, it's her brother, right? Okay, so who did they work for? Okay, they are agents for an insurance company, right? All right. So if you give the money, the insurance agent, then of course he gets his commission. The money goes to the insurance company, and then the money is pooled. Okay, within the insurance company, there would be some, anyone here are taking actuarial sciences as your major? No one? So it's a science of calculating and estimating probabilities of of certain events, probabilities of payouts, okay, actuarial sciences. And then once they've done that, they will be investing a certain amount, okay, to capital or to the debt or capital market or other kinds of investments. And then they would also manage the money, okay, to see if there are claims. Then the money would go to the customers. And if there are profits from the investments, okay, they would go back to the insurance company, or they would go back to the customer if it is an insurance-linked product. All right, is that very clear? Okay, from these items, we want to identify what are the Sharia issues available in them. Okay, let's go. So the kind of contract, okay, what kind of contract is it? Because you are buying what are you buying? It's actually a sale contract. So what is the insurance agent selling to the customers? What are they selling? You guys, some of you are have insurance policies, right? It's in force, right? So what do you buy?
Contracts.
You buy contracts?
You buy the contract for insurance so that when you so that if you get sick or whatever it is, then based on the eligible criteria, then they'll pay you out.
So you are buying, the contract entails the purchase of coverage, okay, for certain items. So that's one. Okay. So in Sharia, okay, in Muamalah, in our system of belief, the way we conduct our transactions, if it's a purchase, if it's a sale contract, there are certain requirements inside them. Okay? One of which is you must be very clear on what is it that you are buying. When you buy an insurance policy, it's very clear how much premium you have to pay as, right? It's clear that who are the two parties, the insurance company, yourself, via the agent. Okay, but what are you buying? You are buying the coverage, which may or may not happen, right? So there's a level of ambiguity there. So this is an ambiguity, a certain level of ambiguity is not allowed in Islam. All right, it's because what exactly is that contract? So it's a question mark. So that's the first item. Secondly, can you press next? Okay, yeah, excess ambiguity. Element of gambling. Some may say that they want to profit lah. Okay, but rarely lah anyone takes insurance to profit. But there are instances, you know, that for companies, sometimes companies take insurance policies, okay, on their staff. In case anything happened to their staff, the payout will go to the company. Yeah, and sometimes the company don't even distribute that back to the employee's family. They take it. Anything happen to the employee, yes, they get catching, they get money, right? But some companies, when they do that, it is actually for the benefit of the employee and their families. Okay, I remember that in my former workplace in Malaysia, I worked in a bank in Kuwait Finance House, Malaysia. So there were certain events, unfortunate events. My former CEO passed away. Right? The pressure of working in the financial industry. Yeah. Okay. So he passed away due to heart attack. So there was a payout, okay, that went to not to the bank but to the family. Right? Okay, so those are the items, the Sharia issues there. Are we clear on that? Okay, for the next one, usually riba. I've heard that Ustaz Nuzaihan has been lecturing for many sessions, right, in the past. So you guys are very well versed, right? What's riba? What is maisir? All that. You guys are no need for me to revise, right? So riba, okay, it's a topic on its own. It'll be pretty lengthy, but essentially it's like taking interest on a loan. Right, taking interest on a loan lah. Okay, there are few forms of riba, but I think in the financial products, what we are quite familiar with and what we are very much exposed to here in Singapore, when you put your deposits in a bank, you get interest. When you take loan from the bank to purchase a house or purchase a car, you would do so, okay, getting that amount to pay for the purchase, and you would repay back with interest to the banks, right? So that's riba. So riba, there are clear prohibitions on that item. Henceforth, when you talk about the investments that the insurance company make, okay, meaning that those are your money, right? Those are coming from your money. When it goes to them, they will be making investments on financial products that are interest-based. Okay? It will be a mixture of equity or debt. So the debt portion predominantly is going to be interest-based. Otherwise, they wouldn't give out those loans. Okay? And for the investments that they do, the investments may be exposed to non-permissible activities. Okay, non-permissible economic activities. Can you give me some examples of that?
Alcohol industry.
Very good. Alcohol industry, not allowed. Yeah. So I had a colleague when I was studying. Her family business was in producing whiskey and alcohol. Wow. Okay, so those are activities that for us Muslims we cannot participate in, nor can we invest. Right? What else? Casinos. So like the likes of Genting, right? Resort World. Resort World is a US company, is it? Resort World. Okay. Other examples? What about
Defense.
defense? Defense. The sale of weapons, there are issues. But when you talk about national defense as a country, to protect your sovereignty, okay, to protect your citizen, certain those kind of transactions have been allowed. But the sale of arms, right? The initial business of Tony Stark, right? He was selling arms to both parties, profiting from it, right? So those are the Sharia issues. Very, very good. Okay, so you guys are quite clear on that. Okay, next. Right. Okay. So let's look back at what are the views of our scholars, contemporary scholars, that talks about the hukum of what do you call it? Permissibility of insurance. Some contemporary scholars and academics view that certain conventional insurance is permissible. Okay, as long as it is free from riba, gharar, and maisir. Right. So these are the ulama, Syekh Ali Jum'ah from Azhar, Darul Ifta, Dr. Mustafa Zarqa, a renowned economist, Islamic economist, Ali Al-Khafif, Darul Ifta Mesir. And then insurance policies coming from cooperative companies are permissible, subject to being free from prohibited or prohibitive elements. The views of Scientific Academy and a conference in Al-Azhar. So there are views that says that it is subject to being free from. And when we look at the structure of insurance products, are there gharar?
Yes.
Are there riba? Okay, maisir is a bit of a question mark because more often than not, our intentions when we subscribe or when we purchase policies, it's not so that in the chance that something happen, I'll get back. Unlikely. It is in fact to mitigate risks associated with unfortunate events. In case anything happens, at least from the financial angle, you don't have to worry about it, right? But never we want those unfortunate events to happen. Okay. All right. Next one. Okay, so that's one. Okay, next one. Conventional commercial insurance is impermissible. This is the view of majority of Sharia scholars. Okay. These are the list, right? And the basis of their impermissibility is because there's gharar and maisir. Okay. Ambiguity in the sale premium transaction. Okay. And then secondly, because there's a riba and non-Sharia compliant elements in the utilization of the funds. Right. So you are unsure about what exactly are you buying. Ambiguity there. And when the money is channeled within the company itself, it is involved in non-Sharia compliant or items that have Sharia issues. Okay. Ustaz Nuzaihan will further elaborate in the context of Singapore. Okay. I'll only mention a little bit. Okay. There's one fatwa by MUIS, Majlis Agama Islam. So on any religious issues, on any Sharia rulings, okay, in your very practice here in Singapore, do your very best. Okay, we always defer to what are the opinions of Majlis Agama Islam. Okay, because they formulate, deliberate, and come up with Sharia fatwa or resolutions in the context of us here in Singapore. Okay, they would have extensive discussion. So one of which is, they had discussed about this back in 1991, in the 90s, right? Okay. Fatwa on group insurance. So there are some who doesn't talk or doesn't or can't read bahasa, right? So can we have a volunteer to translate? Okay. Now, the question was on scheme insurance, a group, just like what your university is providing you. Is it okay or not? Alright. Majlis Agama Islam say that terpulang kepada interview. We leave it to you to determine whether it's okay or not. Okay. It's okay for you. You choose lah which view you subscribe to. The one that allows just now and the one that doesn't. Okay. But just be mindful and careful when you talk about whether if you find that it is allowed based on necessity. Okay, so they don't say it outright. Okay, but they say that there are differing views in it. So you take a look at it and you determine and decide for yourselves. Right? And then there are also some, okay, next one. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on this. Ustaz Nuzaihan are going to touch on the other deliberations, okay, by Majlis Agama Islam. But as far as Majlis Agama Islam, back in the 90s, they've considered both issues, right? And they say that, okay, both have their valid points, so you determine it for yourself, right? But in our situation, especially for us who have worked in the financial industry, and those of you who are quite well versed in what's going on, or in fact are majoring in either business or even in finance, you would know that the insurance structure, as per how I had deliberated earlier, there are in fact Sharia issues. Yeah. So now we want to harmonize, or rather we want to try and see, okay, in Singapore, so how does it apply to us? So for those of you who have bought those insurance those insurance policies, that I know you guys raised your hands earlier, why did you do so? So you can opt out, right? The university, uni, I don't want the coverage, you go. Okay, I am self-sufficient. First for yourself. So what was the basis of you taking up that policy that your brother had facilitated for you? Right? So these are the issues that we want to know. Okay, for your information, I also take insurance. Okay, I remember in KL, all my coverage were done by my bank, and I also took my own personally. I had coverage. They were all Takaful. So wonderful. Right? Oh, so fortunate. I'm a Singaporean, so I was working there for a good period of a decade. Oh, so wonderful. My wife went to hospital, my kid went to hospital, everything covered. Oh, so fortunate. Then we decided to come back to Singapore. And then I think during the first few months after relocating here, okay, my wife had an unfortunate accident whereby she had to go to the hospital. And then some issues, and then we had to fork out, I think, more than 10,000 for it. So I didn't have, at the juncture, the coverage were not good or something, so I didn't have full coverage here in Singapore, so I had to fork out from my own pocket. So kesian, right? The husband, I have to pay for it. Okay, but that's the reality, okay? That's the reality, and that is meaning that, Alhamdulillah, I had some extra funds that I can allocate for such expenses. Imagine those who do not have. Right? So what? You no need to go to the hospital. Just avoid it. No, in Islam you have to. It is like we explained earlier, the preservation and the taking care of our health is very important, right? Okay, preventative measures, of course. But if there are any issues happening, you need to seek medical attention, right? Okay, so there are certain reasons for it. Ustaz Nuzaihan is going to cover that further. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so next. It's also Ustaz Nuzaihan will cover. Right, so uniquely Singapore. In Singapore, above and beyond the commercial products, okay, like it or not, you have to be part of it. There will be MediShield Life, okay, in your CPF account, right? And it is not something that you can avoid if you are Singaporeans, right? When you start working, automatically all this will be, these are all requirements. If you are self-employed, you don't put enough funds inside your CPF, they will chase after you to say that this is the minimum amount that you have to contribute for your MediSave. Okay, because Singapore do not want a situation whereby you are in dire need of medical attention and you do not have any funds, okay, via the MediSave, okay, to pay for all those things. Cash Shield Life, okay, for health and permanent disability. Elder Shield, it's not applicable for us. Okay, CPF Life annuity, you pay certain amount, fund is well funded inside the CPF account, then you can start getting payout from 65 onwards until you die. Okay. So those are the realities. Okay, now an alternative, okay, to insurance is actually Takaful. Islamic insurance, okay, or they would say it is Takaful. So what exactly is a Takaful? Okay, so we saw earlier that in the whole process for an insurance product, there are the customers, there's the insurance company, they have their fund, okay, and these are the activities that they do to manage those funds, okay, when there are claims or when there are profits. So for Takaful, you do see similar things, right? Except for this particular, like an additional fund. So what do they do? What happens is all the money collected from the customers, they will actually put it inside here, okay, for the claims. So it is the amount that they get, it is not theirs, it doesn't go directly to their shareholders' funds, but they go to a separate account. Okay, I'll explain further inside this process. Can you go one by one? Okay lah, tak apalah, it's okay. It's alright, okay. So what happens is, customer give money, and then this looks similar to the one before. Similar to the one before. That's further. Okay, but okay, sekejap. Further? This one was before. Do the one after. It's okay, just continue further. Okay. Yeah, just continue further. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. Okay. So what happened in a Takaful instead? The amount that you give that goes to the just go to the insurance agent or the Takaful agent in this case, right? It's a donation. Tabarruk. It is not, you are not buying a policy, you are giving money as a donation. Who would know? Takaful, the Islamic, you give donation to the Islamic insurance operator. So nice of you. Now, once the donation goes here, the money will be put inside. Okay, there are two. First, of course, the Takaful operator, they have their own funds to operate the business, right? But once the money goes here, what happens is, okay, let's not talk about mudharabah. Let's take a simpler term, wakalah, one of the structure. Wakalah is derived from wakil. Okay, wakalah. So it's an agent, you wakil. Right? Kalau orang kahwin, nikah kan, you all dah nak rumah tangga soon kan. So, perlu ada wakil. Wakil tu maknanya dia wakil. He act on your behalf. So, this person, the agent and the company will act on the behalf of the customers to manage the donated funds. Right? To manage it. So, they put inside a separate account. So, all this is reflected in their balance sheet. So, it's not their funds, segregated. Of which, there are risk funds and there are investment funds. So whenever there are claims, right, actuarial sciences, going on there, you will go back to the customers. And if there are profits from the investments, you will go back to both as an incentive for the company. They will get some of the profits and some of the profits go to the customer. So that's how you figure out a solution for the Sharia issues available in the conventional insurance products, right? Okay. So everyone is very clear so far? Good, so far so good? Okay, next one. All right, so these are the references that you can check. Don't take my word for it. Take those references, okay, for it. Okay, so I'll pass it back to our wonderful and handsome moderator before we move on to the following sessions. Hamdan.
Thank you, Ustaz, for your sharing. Okay, next up, we will have the part 2. So whatever that is not covered by Ustaz Aminuddin, Ustaz Nuzaihan will cover for him, insyaAllah.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I get sore throat when I'm a bit nervous. Okay, initially I'm supposed to be a spectator today because you can see just now Ustaz Ami was like, Ustaz Zahir will take over, Ustaz Zahir will take over because initially the idea was to have only Ustaz Amin. And yeah, I mean, Ustaz Amin and I, we know each other quite some time. And now it's proven that he has more money than me. Why? Because I worked in Malaysia for 5 years. He worked for a decade. So you know how much money he's made because that's why he didn't want to come back to Singapore. Okay. Yeah, because one of the reason being is that when we are discussing with the likes of Amir, right, I think I wanted to pull in more Asatiza so that people on the ground like yourself would know that there's a point of referral, right? It's not only Ustaz Zaihan. I think recently you have an event with Ustaz Zahir also, right? Ustaz Zahir, I heard you guys like him maybe because of his demeanor and whatnot, right? So now you know Ustaz Zahir, you know Ustaz Amin, so it's good to have more so-called Asatiza on the ground that you guys can actually approach, okay? Another thing I wanted to comment is that I like the setup. You know why? Because while we are talking, Ustaz Amin was talking, the rest of us can actually eat. Which reminds me of my, just now we were talking about my masters, when I was doing my masters, I think I shared with the class, right? Where when I was in the UK, right, we only had meal once a day, right? Because I was not under any scholarship, so it was our own money. So I only eat one meal a day, all right? So what happened until the extent that I have a Malaysian colleague, where she actually asked me like, Zain, are you hungry? I said, yeah. What do you have? I have Skittles. So I said, oh, so in Malaysia, when you guys hungry, you eat Skittles, you see. In Singapore, when you're hungry, we eat kebab. So it's two different things. All right. So what happened to me was that during the lecture is still around and I think currently he's in San Fran. What happened was that I bought a sneaker, right? Sneakers, Sneakers and a cup of coffee lah, because so hungry. So during the lecture, I was eating. So the lecturer was like, Zain, I noticed you are eating. Yeah, please, I'm hungry. Can I just eat? And then he's lecturing and I'm eating, right? So and then he was actually like, so make sure you pay attention to what I'm teaching. Okay. So to compensate that, because everybody was looking, wow, this guy, who is this bugger and eat inside the class, people are talking about class and whatnot. So I keep asking questions lah. Even dumb questions. Lecturer, this one I think. At the end of the lecture, he was like, Zain, from this day onward, I let you eat. Why? Because you are more participative when you eat. Okay, so anyways, we come back to the so I'm actually taking notes. Okay, so maybe what Ustaz Amin had shared earlier is in terms of the building blocks, all right? Where I look at it as a building blocks. It's a good start because even for myself, when I start any lectures, I will share about what we call it, objective of the religion to protect yourself and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, like what Ustaz Amin again shared, the fatwa or the Islamic legal ruling in the sense that, hey, this one we don't know, certain scholars say it's permissible, other scholars say non-permissible, we don't want to bear any responsibility over it, so you guys on your own, right? So you have to decide on your own. Again, another story where one of the students, Perga students, actually called me or texted me, I can recall. Said, Ustaz, can I have like 5 or 15 minutes of your time? She said, you want to talk to me virtual or you want to talk to me in person? Because I was in Raffles Place and he was staying in Woodlands. So he said, Ustaz, I want to meet you in person, so it's easier for me to convey what I wanted to ask. All right. So he came, I said, okay lah, I can just have a like, so-called like 10-15 minutes coffee break. I can just go downstairs, whichever place you want to meet, we meet up. So he came from all the way from Woodlands to Raffles Place and asked me, Ustaz, I just bought a house. All right. and then there is this fire insurance that comes with the house. Should I or should I not take it? So you actually, you're telling me you travel all the way from Woodlands to Raffles Place just to ask me whether you want to take the fire insurance or not. All right. So my question to him was that, and he's married, like he just got married, and then they get a new house. So my question to him was, if you don't get that insurance, will your wife be angry at you or not? They was like, Ustaz, what does that get to do with it? Because if anything happens, see, if I say no, right, no need to take lah, tawakal, right? Like Ustaz Amin say, tawakal, never mind lah, I know you are rich, never mind, then no need to take. Then la qadarullah, fire in your house. All come down to flames, right? Nothing spared. Right. And then the wife is like, insurance cover? Oh no, Ustaz Nuzaihan say cannot take. It doesn't make sense, right? Right. So at that juncture, what I think what I learned just now a bit from Ustaz Amin is in terms of the building blocks, and that the decision will be subjective to one individual to another. Right? You yourself will better know whether, like, maybe like our sister here, she take me because in support of the brother over there, I don't have not enough premium for this month. Can you just buy from me? I eat my KPI, then I belanja you makan. Maybe you don't know, right? She didn't want to declare, so it might be the case, right? That might be the case. But what does it entails? It entails that is subjective to one individual then as compared to another. So it's up to each of us to actually understand what we need. So that's why we need to know between what we need and what we want, right? Okay, so next slide. Hey, come on, this one just passed. Okay, I wanted to say about the disclaimer because I think during the sessions that myself and Amin mentioned, we might mention names, certain companies, like he said KFH, KFH is a good place to go. Maybe and then you go and sort something else, right? So disclaimer here, like we might mention names, but if and when you want to do your investment or you want to looking for a job and whatnot, please do your due diligence, like in that sense, okay? All right, so just say, oh, Ustaz Nuzaihan, or even, since Ustaz Amin already mentioned about taking insurance, I also have to mention that I also have insurance as well, right? Mine is with VIA and my financial advisor is a non-Muslim, right? But he knows very well my needs, my family needs, in the sense that even if any changes, especially on the ILPs, like any changes in the investments, he will actually ask me first. Right, Nuzaihan, I want to change this one to this investment in what? Investment in this company, can or not? I say, oh, this one can or this one cannot. Right, he's aware of my requirements. All right, so similarly to what happened to me was that I got 2 kids and my wife that time. So they had pneumonia. The eldest one had pneumonia, hospitalized for about 2-3 weeks. Came back, did his checkup, and then we realized that the younger brother also had the same pneumonia. He was also hospitalized for the next 2 weeks. And then when the 2 came back, my wife was exhausted. She also got hospitalized. So it was like back to back, right? So imagine how much it cost us just to pay for that hospitalization, all right? If you don't have insurance, okay? All right, so next slide. Okay, the story of the Prophet Yusuf. A bit of digression here because I always like to share Friday sermons, right? Why? Because most of the time the ladies don't go. Friday. Some mosques, Some mosques the ladies can go, but not all the time. Guys, it goes usually when they come back. The parents ask, so what did the khutbah was about? The khutbah was about Islam. What was it specifically? To do good. Okay, very general, right? Which is not wrong, right? But it's not entirely right, right? So I like to share that because you can actually download, right? So, ladies, any of you actually download the khutbah? Yes, no. Okay, we have our exams next week, so okay. So what I'm trying to share here is that it talks about how the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam does his planning, right? Advise the so-called his safeguards all that's under his responsibility. Qala ja'alni ala khaza'in al-ardi inni hafizun alim, and put me in charge of the storehouses of the land, for I'm truly reliable and adept. So how can you get someone to take care of your houses, storehouses and whatnot, because someone that is reliable, someone with expertise, right? So that's why I mentioned earlier in terms of the building blocks, right? You need to know what you're doing, right? Like earlier we was sharing in terms of why we buy something, because at the end of the day, I always tell the students is that especially in the Islamic religion, when you want to do something, it's good for you to know what you're doing and why. Not like for example, just now we talk about buying and selling, right? So in insurance, when you pay, what do you get? Someone will say, "Ustaz, we get a peace of mind." Yeah, but you get the coverage is not deliverable then and there, right? Or maybe easier for example, like myself earlier, using public transportation. Some of the students I asked, so when you get on or off the bus, right, you actually tap, right? So what does that entails? What does that mean? You tap. So why do you tap? Do you know what you tap?
It's for the right.
Pay for the ride. Majority of them will answer because everybody is doing it. So I just do. If I don't do, I get penalized. Right? So you're paying for a service technically. From an Islamic point of view, you're paying for a service which is a right. Okay? So that's better than doing something like blindly. Okay, tag. Right? Buy insurance, buy. Okay, buy. Okay, but you don't know what is it about. Right? So that's why as a Muslim, we are answerable, right, on all our actions. So we need to know why and how and when we buy something. All right. Okay, next slide. Tak boleh juga.
Boleh. Boleh untuk dorang. Zoom proper.
Okay, so again, so we zero into the Singapore context. Is there Takaful currently? There's certain Takaful bit and parts lah, right? Especially for those going for Hajj and pilgrims. There's this esteemed who offers Takaful. I won't go into the details in terms of how Takaful because I already covered that. But during those time, initially it started with Keppel, and then it went to HSBC Amanah. And for certain reason, or the reason given was economies of scale, right? Then they discontinued or they pulled out of having Takaful. But having said that, the Takaful is still ongoing. Whoever bought the policies, for example, I did buy a policy, or not say buy, I contribute to the policy. All right, so the policy is still there, right? It's still ongoing. All right. So right now, in terms of your critical illness, in terms of your hospitalization and whatnot, there's no Takaful lah in Singapore context. Okay. Next slide. Okay. All right. So group insurance, Ustaz Amin has covered that. CareShield, revocable, commercial insurance scheme for Hajj. So this is actually Ustaz Amin can cover it. I don't know why he doesn't want to cover it. He will ask me to talk also as well. But I'm just going to run through it and share what is actually the overarching so-called framework or spirit behind it. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so this one, Zikri was asking me, Ustaz, I think your slide got Malay. So yeah, this one is because the source is Malay, so that's why we have to put in Malay because you don't want to translate for me, so it's there in Malay. Okay, so this one is covered by Ustaz Amin earlier. Okay, next slide. Right. Cash life scheme. Okay, this is again something that we must have when we reach a certain age. All right. Then we need to so-called pay the premium for cash in life scheme where they will make payouts later on in our life, right? And again, I want to emphasize what Ustaz Amin mentioned earlier in terms of usually most of the time insurance you only look at it afterwards. Right now, I think at your stage it's more towards like whether I get my income, whether my income is so-called sustainable, whether I keep it, whether I save it. It's more luxury in that sense. So this one is a bit later. And again, the Office of Mufti, which is Singapore, right? In Singapore context, there are no elements of gambling nor ambiguity on the contract. Hence, they say that it's permissible to join the Cash Life scheme. So technically, from a fake Islamic jurisprudence point of view, they are actually looking more towards the well-being or maslahah of the individual, right? Hence, they actually allow it or make it permissible for one to actually join the CareShield Life scheme. The next one. So these are all fatwa. Fatwa is a Islamic legal ruling. It was made by the MUIS board, Islamic Religious Council. Okay, so the next one is in terms of those traveling where there's COVID-19 pandemic and then there's no Takaful coverage, right? Because we're talking about products, right? So certain products are not all encompassing. They might be covering for something, they might not be covering for something else, right? But for insurance, right, I when I was still, I'm still learning, but for insurance, they came out in the news, for example, like the insurance for Beckham's right leg was like in the millions, right? That time, he can't, someone said that he can't claim if he had a ski accident because he was not supposed to play ski. So insurance, yeah, so insurance can be, and one of the most, make a wild guess, what is the most expensive insurance premium that you can pay for a certain coverage? You know, make a guess. It's not Beckham's right leg, it's something else. The most expensive premium. You know? Anybody? Any guess?
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo. Okay. All right. It's actually for golfers.
Okay.
It's actually for golfers. What happened at St. Andrews, you know, in Scotland, right? They were playing golf, right? So when this guy was, I can't recall his name, he was playing golf. Suddenly something fell from the sky. So apparently it was from a plane. Yeah, something from a plane. I don't know what is it. Might be something, might be ice or what, something. I don't know what happened, but it fell down from there. Right, because the planes are flying over that St. Andrews golfing area. So somewhat the premium for that became very, very expensive for someone to doesn't have that kind of coverage. Okay, so so what I'm saying is that they can customize it, but and because of certain customization, they are not all encompassing. So certain coverage is there, and certain others might not cover at all. So for the likes of traveling, especially for Hajj and pilgrimage, they no Takaful in offer, so they had to go for the commission insurance. Okay, so that's allowable. Next one. Okay, this fatwa on revocable insurance nomination is actually just to show us that the fact that there's a fatwa or Islamic legal ruling on insurance shows that MUIS has a open concept in terms of whether it's up to the individual to decide whether it's for him or her to subscribe to any particular policies. All right, and if I may sum up or summarize the approach or the building blocks or the framework that we can see here is that, number one, when we talk about coverage or protection, okay, is that you look for Takaful, right? Like Ustaz mentioned, when we were in Malaysia, we had end-to-end Takaful from end to end, so that's fine. But in Singapore context, there isn't. So what do? First and foremost, you look around first. You ask around whether there's, say for example, you want to look for a particular maybe coverage for traveling, right? You look around first. As a Muslim, our responsibility is to actually look around, ask around. Is there any Takaful that covers traveling? If there isn't, then you look for something that is near to it. Because the group insurance, why the ruling is permissible is as such that it's in the form of cooperative. Okay, for those who are very interested, especially about cooperation, cooperative, about tabaruk, the one that Ustaz Amin mentioned earlier, you can look in history, the likes of what they call it tribes, right? In Arab, right? In the Arab country, even the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he's from which tribe was he from? Was he from Quraysh? So they are based on tribe. Even nowadays, I got to know certain segment of our friends, Muslim friends, because they say that, oh, in Singapore context, there isn't any halal or Sharia compliant home financing. They want to buy a house. They have a community where actually they come together, they put money together so that this individual can buy the house cash. All right, but you can't do that for everyone. You just can't. It's impossible, right? Unless you are like Peter Lim lah, right? Or who's the richest person? Quite lambing. You want to buy property just like, how much is this? 700k. Okay lah, cash 700k. right? If you can do that, then easy peasy, right? You know, 7 again, I only got $7. Okay, right? Okay, so it is as such where you actually look for something that is nearest to the Takaful concept, right? Which is cooperative. And if cooperative there isn't there, then you can actually go for the so-called, they call it insurance lah, or sometimes they call it conventional insurance. Conventional is your mainstream insurance lah, right? So then because of why they allow because of maslahah, the well-being, right? That's why your objective comes in, right? The religion, to protect yourself, to protect your lineage, to protect your wealth, and so forth, right? So that's why, and again, I like to mention this in terms of the deciding factor is very, very subjective from one individual to another, right? Because the next example that I want to give again, say for example, I got 3 kids, right? The first one, he's currently with the Singapore under-9 team, right? I want him to study this way. For example, go to national school or sports school and whatnot, right? And I have a third one is a girl, which currently, right? And I want her to study in a different pathway. Would the cost of both be the same? It wouldn't, right? So if I were to subscribe to a certain insurance plan for the both of them, it couldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same. Just because of the payout, it wouldn't be the same, right? So it's subjective to one individual. And only that individual can decide whether it's a need and one. And I always remember this. Last time when I think I was about 9 or 10 years old, my late father always tell me, Nuzaihan, when you want to buy something, buy what you need, don't buy what you want. And I was 9 years old. I said, what the heck? Whatever I need is I want. Whatever I want is the same thing. What? There's no diff. Right? When you are talking about 9 and 10 years old, now when you grow up, you say, oh, there's a need, right? Which is your dowry and whatnot. And then there's your wants, your hajat. Yeah, maybe you can have, and then there's also tahsiniyat, right? Beautification, right? Do you need glasses that can change the shade in the sun and whatnot? Maybe not, right? But people might, hey, I want this one, I look cool, all right? But that one is not something that is necessity, right? So it depends from one individual to another. So just to summarize again, what Ustaz Amin shared earlier was the building blocks, all right? In terms of how, as an individual, we look at the content, we understand why are there different opinions between the scholars in terms of the permissibility of the insurance, and then how the actuarial sciences comes in terms of the calculation and so forth, right? So but currently most of it they say is because of the interest element, right? In terms of the impermissibility when it comes to insurance, because the way you might different opinion.
Generally, those are the 3 items.
Yeah, generally those are okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Riba
Yeah, in terms of the investment part, okay, investment part. So it's left hanging, it's left open, right? That's why it's very important for us to really understand where we stand for that lah, in that position. And then what my slides or the next half of the portion is about the framework, right? So if you don't have Takaful, then what you look out for, right? So you look for something that is closest to it, you look for something that is halal in the first place, right? Before going, you don't like, oh, this one I want to have this coverage, oh, let's take this insurance. But without doing your due diligence and finding out first whether there's an Islamic equivalent. Why? Because like what Ustaz again mentioned earlier, there's something brewing in the pipeline that will come out very, very soon in the market, where there's going to be Takaful, okay, in the market. Hopefully very soon, before the end of the year, right? So then that's where the question will come in. The keyword just now that was mentioned, or again I mentioned as well, is alternative. So as a Muslim, when you have insurance and then you have Takaful for the same requirement that you have, so do you go for insurance or you go for Takaful? Right. Then that's where whether this Takaful is an alternative or is it a must for an individual, right? Okay. So any other? Sama-sama. Oh, okay. Last but not least, I think some of us here said that he or she has policies. All right. Just remind your brother, don't forget to pay the zakat for your policy. Okay, especially financial advisors, I always remind them, you go to people, hard sell, call people and so forth, for example, asking them to subscribe or buy your policies and whatnot. But as a Muslim financial advisor, one of your responsibility is also to remind them. If you don't start, I don't know, their zakat is like, they have other wealth as well, but you are covering their insurance, then you minimally, your responsibility as a Muslim financial advisor is to remind them, hey, this one already nisab, you need to pay zakat. Else you are not doing your responsibility. Right? So you need to know that is okay. I don't know whether this is a proper English word. There's a certain when a certain policy come to a certain time tenor, then it will be zakatable. What such words? Don't have. Okay, so I just created that zakatable. All right, so you need to pay zakat on your takaful or zakat on your insurance. Just a gentle reminder lah. So because sometimes we have all this, but we don't like to hoard things, right? And then zakat, don't know, right? You don't know, you don't want to know. Okay, then one also two different things. Okay, so just a gentle reminder on that. Okay, I think I'll end my sharing here. All right. So I pass back over to our beloved Ustaz Zikri. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you to Ustaz for their insightful sharing. Okay, so in the next hour or so, we encourage you to actively participate in the discussion by posing your question and thoughts on the Slido or by raising your hand to ask question. Do also upvote the question in the Slido if you want. Then we will try our very best to answer many questions as possible.
Just one question. Okay.
Can pause this sharing?
We need to say dollar for dollar.
You pause.
Might be the same. Like
Then later you share the other.
No, that's fine.
Tak, macam nak tulis apa?
Nanti dia tak pasal ni.
Boleh.
and the spectrum, which scholar which says documentation. Majority of scholars they'll say dollar again.
Macam mana kita just take turns answering ya?
Take turns, boleh.
Okay, kita take turns in answering ya. InsyaAllah.
InsyaAllah.
Okay.
So, okay, before that, anyone from the floor, you want to ask questions? Like, can just shoot up. Yeah.
We prioritize those who are in the presence. Similarly to those who are joining virtually. Please go ahead.
About the Takaful insurance, will the so-called premium in the traditional world be the same for everyone who is participating, despite the unequal levels of their financial income?
So the formulation of the contribution from those who are subscribing to Takaful, right? They derive from the same actuarial sciences that goes on in a normal insurance company. So for Takaful operator, they have their actuarial scientist who does the calculation to determine whether they can in fact take on such risks and coverage, and to determine what is the contribution required for a particular individual or customer for the coverage that they want. So different profiles may lead to different contribution amount, depending on the risk factors.
For the same coverage, right?
For the same coverage. So once you are being offered that the scheme is as such as the customer, then you can determine whether you want to subscribe or not. Yeah, second question. Yeah, another question, please.
What's your take or understanding on Sharia compliant funds or ILPs?
The hard one, difficult. So can share again the
Because currently most of the insurance companies, they are trying to meet the needs of the Muslims, right? Of investments, because we
Right.
talk about the interest. So most of the companies, they're coming out with like Sharia compliant funds. And I just want to understand whether Allah, sorry. Then if it's okay, if let's say we invest in Sharia compliant funds, because I actually did call Muiz to ask if it's okay if I were to invest in that. And their advice was leave it up to me to decide. Because the initial reason was I wanted to know who is the one who regulates or decide whether is it Sharia compliant. And apparently, for example, for Manulife, it is being dictated by the Asatiza in the Manulife itself. And I'm pretty sure for different companies, there are different ways, right, to do it. So what is your take on Sharia compliant funds?
Yeah, record that. So on that Muiz feedback, I won't say anything about that. This is recorded. We can take it offline. Okay. And then in terms of I believe you're talking about Western Islamic, is it? In terms of the Asatiza board and whatnot. Okay. I think this question should be better answered by Ustaz Amin. So technically, Ustaz Aminuddin is I look up to him. Why? Because he is one of the Sharia advisor for HSBC Amanah Bank. So correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Okay. So they usually in terms of a fund or a product for that matter, prior to being approved or being sold in the market, right? It will always get an endorsement. Right. Similarly to your food lah. I mean the easiest analogy is to food, right? When you see a Muiz halal, then you know that this is permissible, that you can consume it. Give that so-called what you call that, confidence for you to so when it comes to funds or Sharia compliant funds, they have scholars like Ustaz Amin who actually review, deliberate on the funds before they endorse that these funds are Sharia compliant or otherwise. Then someone said that it might lead to another question, that who gives them the authority to actually endorse, right? I.e. expertise lah. Right. The same question we ask, Muiz give halal certification to this company, right? So who give Muiz the right? Or because they have the expertise, they make sure there's a certain guidelines that they follow in order for them to issue this halal certification. So it's the same process as the Sharia advisor. Right. So rest assured, if a particular funds have they call it Sharia compliant, means they have what do you call it, like a Sharia approval or Sharia pronouncement that is endorsed by the Sharia advisor for that particular funds to say that these funds we already went through the nitty-gritty, the documentation, the processes and whatnot to ensure that this is actually Sharia compliant, which is or in other words, is halal lah. It's halal for that matter. Anything you want to add on, sir?
Yeah. So in short, when you talk about how halal is when they term it as Sharia compliant funds, if you are a bit skeptical, right, or if we are questioning on the veracity of that claim, be assured if you talk about Sharia compliant product, okay, especially when you talk about funds, yeah, and there are proper governance structures within it, okay, to ensure its compliance, then you can be assured in a certain sense. Especially when you talk about funds, normally they would originate from Malaysia. Okay, and sometimes some funds may not be available to the retail market, but it may be available via the route of taken investment link policy, and then we have access to those Sharia compliant funds. So have a bit of scrutiny. You can put in a level of scrutiny to look at the funds, and you can get details on it. And normally funds, and we are talking about these are where they would invest those monies in. Okay, and those funds normally would have requirements, regulatory requirements. Like in Malaysia, we have, here in Singapore, we have MAS, right? In Malaysia, we have Bank Negara Malaysia. So they regulate the whole Islamic banking, Takaful, and even fund management business that are going on in Malaysia. So if you say that it is Sharia compliant, they are very strict. Okay, they have requirements, meaning that for every fund, you have to have Sharia advisors or Sharia committee members residing, independent Sharia advisors, yeah, not salaried employees. So these are independent external. Like for me, I'm working on my own right now, yeah, but I am being appointed as a Sharia committee member for HSBC Amanah in Malaysia, as a member. So I'm an independent party. So there are discussions in the meeting when they are discussing about certain elements of their products and whatnot. I can just come in and say I have issues with this. I see it as there are Sharia issues. Why? Because of da. Because I'm not a salaried employee. Okay? And my job is actually to act as an independent party to ensure the compliance of the product. So that goes for those funds. But bearing in mind that when you ask that question, I look at it from the angle of you subscribe to an insurance by giving you access to Sharia compliant funds. All right. So the subscription, or when you purchase those, when you pay premiums to buy those insurance coverage, I think the baseline, which both myself and Ustaz Nuzaihan agree, is there are apparent Sharia issues there as an insurance product, right? And there's an alternative, which is Takaful, but at the moment, many of our requirements are not met because there are not many product offerings. Okay, so even when you want to take investment linked products, so what is the premise? Like Ustaz Nuzaihan mentioned, there's this concept of darura. It's a necessity, you really need it, right? There's another level which is lower to that, which is the hajah. You have a need, but it's not a really necessity, right? I'll give you an example. A house in Singapore, you really need it? Yes. Aurora, okay? Having a house, a shelter, we need that, okay? Because if you go and pitch a camp at the East Coast, okay, after maybe one or two nights, you might get away with it, but subsequently the authorities will come in. You can't do that. So having a roof over your head, it's a necessity. Having a car, is it a necessity?
No.
Depends. Yes, no, depending, right? But sometimes some of you, let's say if you do work in certain kind of jobs, you require, going to one places to another, then it may be a necessity, but you can always look for another job, right? So it may not be a darura, it might be a hajat, but the premise in Sharia is al-hajah at certain times tanzil manzilat al-darura. It may actually take the hukum of darura, allowing you, making it permissible for you to take. So the insurance which we mentioned, the Sharia insurance, depending on the level of needs and requirements, it may be something that you need to subscribe to. Okay. On a personal note, I don't take ILPs. Because when I look at insurance, I look at my needs. Okay. My function, or the reason why I subscribe or I have to resort to insurance, is because I need the coverage. Okay, and these are done in a calculated manner. Sit down with my family, these are requirements in case if I die, how much do you need to sustain? What's the annual expenses? We all calculate all this to determine what exactly we want to take. So when you talk about ILP, which the insurance agents would love to promote, because correct me if I'm wrong lah, maybe the commissions are a bit higher, right? Because the quantum is a bit higher for the company to get. I don't take ILPs because I take the insurance for the coverage. In the investment part of it, I do it myself, right? So the investment strategy as an individual, like I mentioned, we want to acquire halal wealth. We want to manage and preserve our wealth in a halal manner. So investment strategy is a huge part to managing our wealth, right? Because in Islam, we don't like hoarding. In fact, Islam disincentivizes hoarding of wealth. That's why if you have a certain amount of money, you hoard it, what happens? You have to pay zakat every year. because Islam promotes that you actually circulate the money. Of course, you have to save enough funds, okay, for your savings, but you don't accumulate more than what you need. Again, the calculation of what exactly how much funds as a savings or emergency fund, there's a method to calculate. There are many views on that. So, and you should all read up on it, okay? Above and beyond that, go and generate or circulate the money, okay, via one form is via investments. Right? So I invest my own money. So when we talk about Takaful, when we talk about insurance, it's really just for coverage. Investment, I have my own investment strategy. Yeah, correct.
How about we answer one of the Slido question? The common one is, what bank account, where can we store our immediate cash so that we can avoid interest?
Takaful.
Aduh.
Answer. HSBC. Okay, I think in a Singapore context, okay, this one not promoting it, just sharing because I won't get any, I won't get certified. So, in a Singapore context, we can look at the likes of CIMB, all right, and also Maybank, right. And how do we know that is an Islamic account? Is that the product name at the end will have a -I. Right. So for example, if it's a savvy account, for example, for Maybank, there's a savvy -I, or for CIMB, if there's a star saver, there's a star saver -I. Like what Ustaz Aminuddin mentioned earlier, in Malaysia, there's bank negara because technically Maybank and CIMB are Malaysian banks. So the ruling is that to so-called differentiate between the normal Islamic as well as the conventional accounts, they actually put an indicator. So the indicator is a -I, not iPhone. Today there's a long queue at iPhone. I don't know. Today got launched.
iPhone 15.
iPhone 15. Okay, no wonder. Okay. So there's a -I. I won't recommend OCBC anymore. Because I was made to understand that whoever has an account there, they will just maintain it. My biggest concern is reviewing the review. So on a yearly basis, whether anyone actually review those accounts for OCBC. They do have a so-called a YDR, which the pull factor is that they calculate zakat automatically for you, right? But I won't recommend it anymore because I was made to understand that there isn't any committee actually overlooking it.
OCBC Alamin?
Di Malaysia lah, but here tak ada. OCBC Alamin actually
Coverage, maybe part of the review scope.
maybe
I don't know.
that's why I don't dare. So can either be CIMB or Maybank lah. But having said that, doesn't mean that again disclaimer, doesn't mean that if you move to an Islamic account you must close your conventional account lah. Right. Sometimes people say that if Ustaz, so we move, then this one we close. If you want to close, by all means, which is good lah. Right. But if you want to maintain, maybe for transaction purposes and whatnot, then that's fine. I have a POSB account. Why? Because I don't know why. When I use CIB or Maybank, say for example, after this I say, Zikri, don't forget my honorarium transfer, and then transfer to CIB, tak masuk, cannot, it get blocked. I don't know why. For some reason. Alright. Duit tak halal. I don't know. So I say transfer to my POSB lah. So then it goes through. So for me, I have POSB, but it's just for transactional basis lah. Right. And then you have your Maybank and CIB. Yeah.
Share for this.
I think it's pretty clear. But yeah, just it's a yeah, something new for me as well. OCBC. I have an OCBC YDR account. Okay, so Ustaz Nuzaihan's I think it's something worth looking into. I have a friend who's working at OCBC Alamin in Malaysia. So I think traditionally, like CIMB, Islamic in Malaysia, Maybank Islamic in Malaysia, correct me if I'm wrong, the product offerings that are available here in Singapore, right? At least they do work together to ensure that the product that the Islamic products that are being offered here, okay, it is consistent with the parameters and the standards, okay, that ensures that it is Sharia compliant in Malaysia as well. Okay, the unique thing about, or the different thing about Singapore and Malaysia is the central governing authority, okay, Bank Negara, they are very, very particular. When you say that it is Sharia compliant, everything has to be in place. All the requirements have to be there. Okay, even at the regulatory angle. So the operators, they are unless they follow those requirements, their license can be taken back. They can be fined huge amounts, and there are past incidences. Okay, so in Singapore, we don't have such governing structure from the regulatory angle. So it is self-governing. Okay, so for the products coming from let's say OCBC, because they have their Malaysia counterpart. So as an entity, they are more conscious on it, right? OCBC, Alamin as Malaysia. Then you talk about Maybank, you have Islamic offerings here. Talk about CIMB, there are Islamic offerings here. So they follow the standard. But any other companies that come out in Singapore, other than those who follow such standards, right? If they come out with a product and say this is Sharia compliant, we have our list of people looking at it. It is not being governed in a very strict manner as how they are being governed in Malaysia. Okay, so for us, the within the Islamic finance fraternity, especially within the Sharia governance angle, right? Ustaz Nuzaihan, myself, and few others, we are very skeptical, because we are very sensitive, and we aware what standards are required. If some guy just come up with a product and say that it's Sharia compliant, we've looked through it, so we are a bit skeptical in that sense. Yeah, but again, it causes confusion to the public, so that's the problem. So again, like what Ustaz Nuzaihan mentioned, have good relationship with people like Ustaz Nuzaihan. So in case if there's anything, you can meet up with him for coffee at Raffles Place, right?
Where's your office again?
Such questions.
Where's your office again?
Okay, proceed to the next question. Okay. If tabarruk is based on a donation, should its contributors still be expecting a payout from the operator, i.e. a donation with expectation of a return?
Okay, so again, the example that I gave was one, right? You gave a donation, okay, for the amount to be pooled together. But the contract that can also happen is when you choose a Takaful operator to manage that fund for you, you as the one who contributes, you can say and determine a certain portion of it goes to the risk fund to cover in case of unfortunate events for the participants, right? Collectively, let's say all three of us contribute in a fund, right? If anything happened to one of us, we are in agreement and everything has been signed for. All the terms and agreements are there, that the funds would be channeled to the one in need, right? But at the same time, you can also have a structure where you put in place an agreement whereby, okay, this portion for the risk fund, and a smaller portion, maybe 20-30%, you go and invest it. Yeah. So the Takaful operator will go and invest it, and henceforth, if there are returns, the returns will come back to us. That's one instance. Another instance is, let's say you put inside the risk fund, right, for the claims and whatnot. At the end of the year, none of us claim. There are also schemes whereby the Takaful operator will return back certain amount back to us because there's a surplus in the funds. So it is not so much as for us to gain returns, but rather it's because of the structure of the product.
I spoke.
Okay, so question from
In that model, isn't there uncertainty that there is a donation that I am making, for example, but there is no certainty that that money, there are no profits that will come back to me. So that is an ambiguity.
Okay. The ambiguity is acceptable because it is not a sale contract. You are actually giving money. Okay. That's why it's a voluntary amount for you to put in. Okay, so that it is to be used for future claims. In case if there are none, or in case if there are surplus, all right, to what has been distributed from the claims, it can return back to you. Yeah. So when you come into it, you know that this is it's a voluntary amount, it's a donation. Yeah, to be kept in a pool of money. Yeah.
The Takaful operator has three things to do. One is decide how much money has to be given for claims. Second is how much to be put into investments, and third is how much to be given back to the donors.
Yeah.
So that's the new component.
Some of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Ustaz, you mentioned about the risk fund, right? What happens then if the risk fund and the amount of claims is different? Let's say like the risk fund is like $5 million, and then there's 5 people want to claim, and their payout is $2 million each. So it's 2 times 5 is 10, right? So the risk fund does not have enough money. So do they then deny 1% of their claim and then the other maybe 2 or 3 gets their payout, or how would they navigate through that issue?
Okay, so what happens is, in such an event, right, and it has happened before, okay, the Takaful operator, they have a sort of like a promise, okay, in the event of a shortfall, they will come up with the money from their own pocket and put inside there as a court, as a loan for the fund. So like you mentioned the example, there's 5 million inside. Claims are 10 million, and they equally have the right to claim. Not enough money. They top up the 5 million so that you can give payout. But it's a loan whereby they can get the amount back if there are surplus in the future. So the following year, 10 million, right? Inside the risk fund. Utilization is only 5 million. So there's a surplus. Instead of giving it back to the contributors, okay, the one who donated, you actually have a debt obligation there to return it back to the Takaful operator. That's how they do it. Oh, that one is very technical. You want to go inside the Takaful business?
I mean insurance. So I want to learn more.
Nice, good.
So, so next question will be, what kind of coverage in terms of amount should we consider in order for it not to fall under riba, i.e. excessive claim amounts?
Yeah, I think let try it. Because in terms of the impermissibility when it comes to insurance, right, is interest. I think it is the investment part. Is it the investment part? No, specifically on the interest. Riba is on the.
Okay, kalau this one, yeah.
Yeah, is the investment part. So when you talk about any coverage, right, like what Ustaz Amin shared in terms of tabarruk and whatnot, it depends on what kind of plan or policy that we are looking out for, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's hospitalization or critical illness and so forth. Right. The interest portion comes in only when there's, for example, an ILP. So technically, where does the interest arise? The interest arise from the returns that you get from the investment, as per mentioned by Ustaz Aminuddin and our brother there. Because certain portion of it will go for coverage, whereas the other portion will go for investments, right? And that is not different as your normal conventional. When you pay premium, that is what they do. Certain funds will go inside a big pool where they do the investment, whereas the other they will actually just keep it so that if there's any claim, they actually use that kind of amount, right? So there's no one size fit all in terms of what kind of coverage, what kind of or what size of premium that you need to pay lah. It really depends on your needs.
If I can add a little bit more, I don't know when this question was asked. Okay, my understanding is perhaps the question is what it would be a suitable amount of coverage that we should get when we take insurance. And then if let's say if there are claims, if we get back their money, how do you determine the necessity? And then if there's extra, what do you do with it? That's my take perhaps from this question. If it's from that angle, I would say that when you want to get an insurance product, make sure you quantify what exactly are your needs. How do you calculate that? Perhaps look at your spending patterns, expenses on a monthly basis, annual basis. So in the event of certain events, how would that affect you, and how would that affect your income being generated during certain period? Then you can understand how much you really need. Like Financial Alliance, a financial advisory firm that is available here in Singapore, they have such offerings, and they have their Sharia advisors or committees, right? For that particular entity, they have a view that, let's say you take an insurance, then whatever, if there are claims, you get the money, right? Then you would also have to calculate exactly what are your needs, and you have to distribute the rest, the extra, to charity, because you don't want to gain from it. Okay, but my view on it is, yeah, okay, I can understand where they're coming from, but when you take up your insurance policies, you should also understand why you take up such premiums for such payouts. And it must be based, because when we're talking about haja, okay, need or darura, necessity, you have to be able to have at least a picture of what that means, and henceforth why you are subscribing.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so next question will be, if I am not subscribed to a Sharia compliant fund ILP, am I still able to keep it by doing zakah, and how do I go about it?
Keep it. By doing zakat.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes we are also like, what do they really mean by the question? Perhaps what I understand from it is, okay, he doesn't take ILP,
Yeah, so
but does he still have to pay zakat for whatever takaful that they subscribe to?
yeah.
Okay, and how do the fella go about doing it? I think Nuzaihan may have a different view, but my view is, on my insurances, I don't pay, because I only take coverage. I don't pay any zakat on it because I don't expect any returns, and this amount it is not mine anymore. Okay, because when you talk about zakat, it has to be the requirement is milkuta, meaning that it is in my possession, and then there's the hawal, 1 calendar hijriya, and thirdly the amount is enough, or it has it is more than the limit lah, or the requirement, the nisab, right? So for insurance premiums that I pay, I don't apply any zakat calculation there because it's already it's already expensed out. But in case if I do get any claims, right, and then the amount that I get, if it after a year it follows the same zakat requirement, the amount is more than the nisab, okay, the bare minimum, 1 year, and it's mine, then I will pay zakat on that. Yeah. Clear? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so okay, the person actually texted me this question. He said, he said like, if he invests on a non-Sharia compliant fund, does he still need to do zakat? Or yeah, then cause his client did ask for like dividend funds which are not Sharia compliant also.
Okay, I think if I can jump in, Ustaz. So that's why I think where Ustaz Aminuddin was sharing earlier in terms of what I call it as a building blocks. Because of that, right, he has a very good understanding of his requirement. He did his calculation and so forth. So from Ustaz Amin's point of view is that, oh, these are all my expenses. Why do I need to pay zakat? So I don't pay zakat on it, right? So that's the kind of level that each and every one of us as individuals should arrive at lah. Right? Because you know your own expenses, you know your calculation and so forth. Hence, because it's not investment, it's just for coverage protection, right? Then it's not zakat payable. Okay, all right. So in terms again, I think this question also related to what Ustaz Amin again shared. Why I always touch this question to him, because he's in the industry. I don't do a lot of insurance for that matter. But like what Ustaz mentioned earlier, when he does his coverage, insurance or takaful, insurance, he doesn't go into ILPs, right? Because of this, maybe because there's element of interest and so forth, right? Okay, this is my turn to say, Ustaz. Ustaz might differ might have a different opinion than mine, right? I think Ustaz didn't use the word purification earlier in terms of you get a certain investment and you so-called purify 2.5%, for example, and then the rest becomes halal. I mean, we have that purification so-called what do you call that, process and so forth. But based on my humble understanding, is that this so-called purification only applies when, for example, you invest in something, the point of investment is halal, Sharia compliant, right? Somewhere along the way, for example, it becomes non-halal, right? Then you want to pull out from that investment. But when you pull out, there's already returns there, right? So then you do purification where you purify whatever income there is 2.5%, and the rest become halal. For me, it's a different approach if the investment or the ILP you know that is not Sharia compliant, but you still invest. But later on, you justify it, the income, by saying that let me purify 2.5%, and then the rest becomes halal for me. So those are two different approaches. I mean, Ustaz, your point of view?
So it's not applicable lah.
It's not applicable.
It's not applicable.
Yeah.
Okay, so in an instance where you do subscribe to an ILP, that is not a Sharia compliant fund, what do you do?
The returns lah.
You take the returns.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this in the Quran, Surah Bakar, wa in tubtum falakum ru'usu amwalikum la tazlimuna wa la tuzlamun. Those who engage in riba activities or non-permissible activities. Okay, so what happens if you've already repented and you want to be on the right path, right? So what happened is falakum ru'usu amwalikum. So you are entitled to the amount that you invested in. Okay, I'll give an example. You give 100,000 in this fund. The 100,000 fund suddenly shoots up to 200,000. Okay, so then you realize, all this while actually not okay lah. Okay, but now you understand. Then you calculate, I've only contributed 100,000. Okay, let's say if you want to withdraw, right? So that you get 200,000. So what you are entitled to is 100,000. If you can determine that the 100,000, if you can determine that the fund is non-Sharia compliant, okay? What if it's Sharia compliant? Then it's okay, you can get all, right? So the premise is, okay, let's say, what about investments that gives out dividends? Similarly, sorry. Before I go into that, second scenario, you put in 100,000. Suddenly fund goes down 50,000. What happens? You just pull it out. Okay, then you are actually causing harm to yourself, right? So what happened is, even in Malaysia's very strict Sharia standards, there are these guidelines that you can actually wait until, let's say, the fund goes back up to 100,000 and then withdraw. You don't have to do it immediately because you are entitled to the amount that you actually invested.
Yeah.
So if it's 100,000, then every month you are getting 1,000, or every year 1,000 from it. If it's non-Sharia compliant, then that extra you channel it to charity. Because if you've determined that it's not halal. Another thing, sorry, I've been a bit elaborate. If it's like the fund goes down 50,000 and then you still get dividends, you can actually add the dividend amount that you are getting. Don't just channel it to charity. Add it back to the amount in totality. So 50,000, then over the last 5 years, you've gotten 5,000. So it's actually 55. So you have to wait for another 45. So those are the ways. A bit technical. Can always meet Ustaz Nuzaihan at Raffles Place.
So they bill me, you pay no me lah. Yeah, so just to add on, what I was trying to share is that, so as what Ustaz mentioned in terms of the example, right? So you put in 100,000, you get 200,000 in returns. So what they mean by purification is that you get to 200,000, you know it's ILP, so you're actually entitled for the 100,000, but the 100,000 returns, you so-called purify 2.5% of it, and then the rest you take it in as your income, which is not permissible lah in that sense.
It's not applicable there.
Applicable there. Yeah.
Okay, good. Next one.
Yeah, okay, so due to time, right? So I will do one last question for Slido and one or two questions from the floor. Okay? Everyone okay, yeah? Okay. So last question from Slido will be, does this mean we keep our savings in the Islamic bank account, then use conventional banks for transaction? Ustaz Nuzaihan, your point of view?
Yes, you keep your savings in your Islamic accounts and then leave the non-Islamic for your transaction. Why? Because at the end of the day, what bank does is actually use your money, right? Why? So if you are asked a really easy question like, so what's the difference between CIMB, Maybank account, Islamic as compared to POSB, right? So in the POSB accounts, they may use your monies that you deposit with them for, because as a depositor, when you put your money inside the bank will actually use it for loans, right? So when what POSB or or conventional banks does is that they will loan out to parties or to entities that require loans, regardless the use of proceeds, i.e., it can be for halal or non-halal purposes. And we don't want to we don't want that. You don't want your money to be contributing to the non-halal ecosystem, all right? Whereas when you put your money in an Islamic account, it will only be used for Islamic purposes only. So you have a peace of mind in the sense that, oh, I keep my money in an Islamic account, and these monies will only be used for halal purposes. Yeah. Yeah, that answered the question. Oh,
Very clear. Good.
good, eh?
Yeah, so question from the floor. You first.
Uh, you mentioned towards the end of your talk that there is a Takaful product that is coming out, inshallah, by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Do you have any comparison between premiums for the same coverage between non-Takaful and Takaful?
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to do the info. Alright, yeah.
And so of course, it must have been created with some analysis and some actual sciences. Any problems that you foresee? Because a lot of questions on what happens if this, what happens if that.
Yeah.
Imagine a situation like COVID, where there's a lot of claims, but no one is buying any more insurances.
Yeah,
And no one has that much amount of money to pay out of pocket.
correct.
So any such
Concerns.
potential, yeah.
I think it's very clear, like what Ustaz Amin shared in terms of the governance, in terms of the setup. It's very clear, right? It's very clear. We know if A was to happen, what we need to do. If B was to happen, what we need to do. The main concern is in terms of the so-called the demand. That's the main concern. The buy-in from the stakeholders, the buy-in from the consumers in that sense, because back end from the bank perspective, we know how to manage this, but in terms of going out there and then saying that, oh, this is Takaful, it's for everyone, because Islam is also for everyone. It's not necessarily for Muslims, but whether people are literate enough to actually take this Takaful in. Right. So that's the main concern, and I won't deny that. I mean, it's something that because the Singapore so-called community is very emotional, right? Because they know last time the Takaful with HSBC didn't fly economy of scale, because the one of the concerns was that it was not generating income as normal conventional loans, right? Sorry, a normal conventional insurance, right? So that was one of the. So when it was pulled out, then the community becomes a bit, not say a bit, but because emotional. And when you want to introduce Takaful, you're like, last time Takaful it didn't happen. So why now? Right. So that's why the concern is.
Yeah. So in terms of the product itself, from a business commercial perspective, right? In order to make it sustainable, okay. So again, we have our needs, and then suddenly there's this Takaful offering. And what you should do, you should cross-reference, okay, with between your need and what is being offered. So if there's a what do you call it, overlapping areas, okay, so instead of taking insurance, you have this alternative, right? So you can take it, right? But let's say if it doesn't fit your needs, and then offering. For me, as part of the Muslim community here, I'm going to support that initiative, right? So because if you look at the Tesla business model, right, they start off with the Roadster, an expensive sports car. Okay, why? Because they can fund a slightly cheaper car, the model S, and then X. Okay, once generate enough income, they try to once it grows to a certain level sustainably, they can now produce model 3 and Y, okay? And they are going to further produce cheaper cars, right? So again, let's say if a Takaful is to be introduced here in Singapore, okay, at a sustainable angle, right? Commercially, I think they may require a bit more time. So whether if they can suddenly come up with all the coverage needs that we currently subscribe to, I'm not so sure how. But if they do, wonderful. But if they don't, I would still want to support as part of our community, right? We want to see the Takaful industry thrive, okay? Not just succeed, but you want to see them thrive. So I would definitely support. Even if they come up with ILPs, I don't subscribe to ILPs, but if Takaful, I will still just take it because I want to support them. Yeah. Support. I'm not being sponsored by whatever that company is.
I think if I can move away from insurance for a while, because you talk about interest, right? So let's talk. You also brought up the topic about CPF, right? Because CPF also there's interest element in it. And then now, for example, if let's say I want to buy a house, then if I were to use my CPF money and even get a loan, so technically, is it even the right move to do it? And then also you also talk about the annuity, right? The BRS, FRS. Technically, the interest, I'm not allowed to take that annuity amount, right? After I hit 65. So am I right to say that being a Muslim can be quite restrictive if you really want to follow this interest? I mean, the CPF part is not we decide. Government say we have to put it, correct? But at the end of the day, if we really want to follow the interest and all, we could say we don't want to take it. So what is your take on it? Or how can I actually, in a way, move along like these rules?
I'll add on.
Good question. If you look at the Mufti Office of Muftis Irshadat as well as Fatwa, there are two types of publication issued by MUIS when it comes to rulings, Irshadat and Fatwa. Fatwa it's a fatwa applicable for us in Singapore. Irshadat, guiding principles. Guidance for you, you can follow, you don't follow, it's up to you if you have differing views. But a fatwa is something that is most suitable in our context. This is a formal view. It has a higher weight to it, right? So if you look at it, most of it, many of which are premised on CPF related issues. Cash shield, right? And cash shield, they are in the view, it's okay. So we can follow. Now, when they formulate their views, for us, we have to be very conscious when you talk about government initiatives versus commercial offerings. Why? Because when you talk about government initiatives within the CPF, it's managed by the government, right? And the cash shield scheme, it is something. It is introduced not for the purpose of commercial profits. It is for the benefit of the Singapore citizens society as in large. So when they again, that's why on this item, first and foremost, we must defer to MUIS, because in their deliberation, they factor in not just from the Sharia perspective, this is okay, that's not okay, look at that structure, haram, cannot, so apply everywhere. But rather they look at why was this CPF scheme introduced? Okay, what is the percentage of our Muslim community in so far as our economic standing? Can we survive, let's say, if you don't subscribe to such schemes? So they factor all those things, then they come up with their view. So when you talk about CPF, MUIS has certain views, that's why we defer to them. When you talk about getting interest from CPF, right? There was a view, okay, from MUIS saying that the interest that we get from CPF, the 2.5 under ordinary account, maybe 4 to even up to 6 for the special account, are considered to be hibah from the government. So they give interest, term it as interest, but they look at it, government is getting money, and then government give you back. So it is a gift from the government, okay, or from CPF, CPF board, and it is halal for us to take. That is the view that MUIS came up with, and I also subscribe to that view. Although we understand riba, they want riba, cannot. But in the larger context of Singapore, okay, because we are required in terms of our CPF, okay, it goes to the CPF fund, okay, CPF board, it is being invested in GIC and whatnot, okay. But MUIS has considered all that in. So as a Muslim, we are considered mustafti. We are those who follow the view of the Mufti. So as a Muslim, we can adopt that, so we can follow. On your view that, let's say, on other elements, especially from the commercial angle, right? When it comes to investments, putting money in commercial banks, those are items restrictive to a sense, yes, but there are alternatives and there are ways for us to still thrive economically, okay, from a business perspective and commercially, even when we stay clear from those things.
It's proven because he's not his own boss and he's doing well right now. So there must be things that he's doing right. No, what I wanted to add on was that if we were to follow the pakcik kind of conversation, right? They will say, Muiz kata boleh, we just follow lah. Kalau dosa, Muiz yang dosa. So that's what. But Ustaz Amin deliberated nicely in a sense that so we need to differentiate between the commercial point as well as the so-called the well-being of the community or the citizen because yeah, I mean we certain points we might not agree, but because the government or MUIS is looking at it from a holistic point of view, because if say for example we say we can't take it, then there will be the Muslim community will have a different issue altogether, which at the end of the day nobody will come to assistance. Like, hey, we already prepared for you the CPF, the cashier and whatnot, but you guys don't want to see haram, then not got issue, then why come to the government? Right? So they already so-called look into it, and hence they come up with this irshad where it's fine for one to actually subscribe to this opinion.
Correct. So that's why when you talk about the deliberation, when you formulate Sharia rulings, right, Islamic rulings, you have to factor in all these things. So the best one, if it comes from a national angle, like Majlis Ulama Islam, they are exposed to everything and they can get data from everywhere. They can get experts from different industries. If it's a medical issue, they can get the medical professionals. If it's a financial issue, right, they can get the economic board, MAS, all that. They can get input. Because another example, let's say even in Malaysia, a Muslim country, you know that the Majlis Fatwa Kebangsaan, or is it, or it was a fatwa in one of the state, it says that Amanah Saham Nasional. Have you heard of that? Since young, Amanah Saham ASB, Amanah Saham Berhad, Amanah Saham Nasional, all that, right? So that is a scheme whereby the government, they sort of like, they form a fund, which is whereby the Bumi Putras can purchase. Okay, easy access for them to have exposure in the equity market in Malaysia, so that as the economy grows, okay, the Muslim population, the Bumi Putra they want to see them grow with the economy as well. So the Amanah Saham National, this scheme whatever, this fund, right? They invested in companies like Maybank. It's a bank. Okay, so traditionally within the Islamic finance circle, even in Malaysia, like with the Bank Negara and all that, we have certain strict criteria to determine whether if a certain company, whether its shares are permissible or whether it's not. Okay, but this Majlis Fatwa actually say that, okay, this fund is acceptable, okay, because they look at it at a national level, looking at the economic standing of the Bumi Putra population, okay, and its detrimental effect should they not participate with the growth of the Malaysian economy.
Yeah.
So you see that at a fatwa deliberation level, they have a certain view. When you look at the micro level, the quantitative element, how you calculate, we also can do this. But okay, you always have to factor in the larger picture. And the Islamic finance industry, they totally respect that decision. Although it clashes with whatever standards and parameters that they have, but they actually see that they understand that the specificity of what they are doing is applicable to their areas, but this one is for the national level. Yeah.
Last question.
So I got last question. I think Ustaz Aminuddin's point on thriving, right? So in the context of Malaysia, you have those kind of opportunities, right? And then in Singapore, we don't have that kind of opportunities. Then is it in your view, right, on the point of accessibility, for example, I'm not talking about like insurance, so those are like necessities, right? Health insurance, things like that. So in terms of like investments, right, when as I'm not trained in finance, so doing my own investments can take up a lot of time, and you have to put in a lot of time to do your investments. If not, it's gambling, right? So on the point of accessibility, if I approach an FA that helps me to do it, and if it touch into like so ILPs and things like that, are there some leeway given in the context of Singapore, and how do we navigate through this?
I'll just give a short answer, then Ustaz Nuzaihan can pick it up from there. So let's say about the ILP products, like personally I don't take it, but let's say if it's for the general public, they find that the ILP product, it covers their insurance requirements from a coverage perspective applicable. Then from the ILP, they are able to subscribe in a Sharia compliant funds. And I think from a Sharia angle, I think it is similar to if you just take a normal term insurance, because Takaful is not available, but you need it, you can take it. As far as the ILP, that's better compared to you take an ILP which doesn't offer Sharia compliant funds. Yeah. So that's one. And then when you talk about investments and the likes, there are offerings and financial advisors that do offer, even without the insurance element, you can subscribe to certain funds that are Sharia compliant. And they do promote such products. So you can always engage them. So in terms of offerings, accessibility, especially now in the year 2020, 2023, right? We are so fortunate compared to our previous generations, those who were in the 2000s, in 1980s, it's highly non-accessible for them. But for now, with the advent of technology and all that, it's so easy for you to invest. Yeah. So again, I'm a proponent of investing in good companies, and I find that it is actually worthwhile. It's pretty intuitive. It's not something like, wow, company is so difficult, how do you assess? It's actually everything, the assessment, to look at the company, all that is pretty intuitive. And I find that as a Muslim, right, we have a long journey, inshallah, in our life, okay? And wealth is a huge component of it, which it's worthwhile for us to invest in our knowledge and capabilities to understand these items, good investments, not.
I have a last question, Ustaz. Yeah. Question.
No, you have to answer first.
Yeah, I want to ask, can you share with us your investment portfolio? Yeah, I mean, just to add on, I mean, Ustaz, I mean, only answer in terms of the ILPs, yeah, there's the Sharia compliant, right? And in terms of investment, yes, there's a lot of platform that you can actually reach out, whether you invest in funds in Malaysia or funds in the US or funds in Indonesia for that matter. But maybe a word of advice is that if one is not familiar yet, start small. But again, we must keep in mind when we talk about wealth, we talk about protection of wealth. First and foremost, income. Make sure Sharia compliant, halal and whatnot. Then savings. After savings, then you can think about insurance. Then you think about investment. You don't start with income. You have $50 and then you use $40 just to do investment. Why? Because Ustaz Amin say he say do investment, so I get $50, $40 I use for investment. Wow. How much saving you have? Tak ada. Right? So please, we are advocates of investment, yes. Why? Because the numbers doesn't make sense if you don't invest. But at the same time, again, like we mentioned, like I shared earlier, in terms of the building blocks, start with your income for savings. Then when you have extra, then you start with your protection. Then you can go into investment. So start between now and then. What you're supposed to do? Then you study. That's why one of the tips I got from what's his name? Forgot his name. Adam Khoo. Sorry, Adam Khoo. I got was that he likes to buy the kids. That time his kids likes to eat McDonald's, right? Then he said that why am I paying McDonald's whereas I can get income from McDonald's because a lot of people eat McDonald's, for example. So he bought shares from McDonald's, right? So his McDonald's shares. This is just a simple example. So McDonald's halal, right? So technically it's okay for you to invest in, right? And is it something familiar? It's familiar. And he says he's happy. Why? Because the more he see people buying, then he knows that he's making money, right? So this is just very easy peasy kind of advice or starting point that you can start with? I mean, like, if you don't go big, you don't start, you never invest at all, then suddenly, oh, Ustaz Amin talk about Tesla, so I must invest in Tesla.
Yeah. Very good advice. Yeah. That one is already, it falls under personal finance. So we have to get our house in order. All that schemes. Generate as much income as you can, minimize your expenses as much as you can, create that surplus, build up your emergency funds, okay, 3 to 6 months of your expenses. Above and beyond that, then that's the amount that you can actually invest. And if you lose it, it won't affect your whole spending pattern and requirements. Personal finance, very, very important. Thanks for reminding me, Nuzaihan. Just to add, yeah, McDonald's is not Sharia compliant share because it's a US company. Predominantly, their offerings are non-halal. Only in certain segment and markets it is halal.
Can you share your investment portfolio?
That was just an example. There are tools available on the internet like Zoya, what else? Sharia screener, whatever. That actually you just put in and they are free. Just put in the name of the company, then they will say whether if it's Sharia compliant or not. But again, that is just from the Sharia angle, but from the commercial angle, you have to analyze and assess the company individually. If those are shares, then if you're talking about funds, funds is a collective of many shares inside it. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you guys for the engaging interaction with Ustaz. Okay, so we have some unanswered question on Slido. Okay, you guys can still put some question into it. So at the end of the whole session, I will collate all the question and pass it to Ustaz and they will answer during their free times. Inshallah, we will get back to you maybe sometime next week or next 2 weeks whenever they are free. Before we conclude,
Kita timeline.
We never commit to that.
Depends on the medium lah.
Okay, before we conclude our thank you panelists for your valuable insight and discussions.